Hey everyone, in this tutorial we're going to be taking a deeper look into the lens flare effect for iClone 8. If you're not yet familiar with the basics of lens flare, please check out our Getting Started tutorial for a beginner's look. Here we'll cover a bit about culling and blocking behavior in regards to camera and environment. In the first case, we're going to take a look at how to recreate a sunlight lens flare effect on a nice sunset background here, which is actually just our IBL image. We can find the sunlight lens flare effect in our content manager under Stage, Lens Flare, Effect, and Outdoor. The place you drag it to will be the origin point for the flare in your scene. If we rotate the camera view, you can see that the lens flare will fade in and out as it leaves the border of our camera lens. In the Materials tab of your Modify panel, you'll find a Culling section where you can toggle a visual reference for controlling the effective region of the flare. Once you select Show Region here, it will open up the preferences to prompt you to enable the View Gate. The view gate is there as a reference for defining the border of your viewport. You can tweak the size of the view gate in Preferences. The red area of the viewport is defined as a disappearing range, while in the green area, things will begin to appear. These blend into each other to define different levels of visibility. If you want, you can adjust the matte box range in order to control the visibility range of the lens flare. Matte box fade will control the fade in and out area of the lens flare. Keep in mind that if there is too much red here, the fade in and out effect will happen more slowly. If I move the lens flare gizmo around, you'll see the difference that the matte box values make in terms of how smoothly or sharply the lens flare fades out in your scene. Here is a side-by-side comparison of two different values for your reference as well. Let's talk about object blocking offset next. In this example, we want to create a lens flare appearing behind this planet in our scene, which doesn't seem to be working just yet. For your reference, I'm only selecting the floor shadow dummy here as a reference point to move the camera perspective in order to see the lens flare effect better. Our first step is to set the object blocking offset value to 1, which will cause the lens flare to be blocked by the planet in our scene. You can see the effect here. When the offset is set to 1, that our lens flare will fade out behind the planet we've placed in our scene. If you want the lens flare to disappear without a fading effect when it is blocked, you can adjust the value higher to something like 10. Once we do this, there's a much sharper entrance for our lens flare. Let's take a look at the next case, which involves directional decay. Here you can see a helicopter with a spotlight. In this case, the lens flare should correspond to the effective area of the spotlight. So for this example, we're going to use a dramatic lens flare template called Raise Cross. We can quickly align our lens flare effect to the cross light attached to the bottom of the helicopter by using the Align To tool on the toolbar, and make sure it's aligned to all parameters. Since the lens flare currently doesn't have any attachment to the position of the spotlight in our scene, we can remedy that by selecting the lens flare dummy and attaching it to the spotlight to keep the positions consistent. Now, whenever we move the spotlight position, the lens flare will follow along. An important part of getting a dramatic lens flare is setting its range. To do that in iClone, simply have it selected and enable Directional Decay. You'll see the gizmo change to an arrow, which indicates the direction of the lens flare. At first, it's not obvious since the max angle value is set to 90 degrees. If we set that value a bit lower, we can then see the lens flare effect when rotating at different angles. Here, you can see a comparison with two different set angles. Finally, there is a hard cut option that allows you to adjust the fade in and out effect of the lens flare. A hard cut will make the effect much more sudden, whereas if you don't have it active, the transition will be more gradual. That's really all there is to this tutorial, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully you enjoy this new feature with iClone 8 and are able to utilize it in your future projects. Be sure to check out our forums at forum.reallusion.com, and I'll see you in the next video.